Hey, Chris Wilson, Grassroots Healing, teaching you how to be a master of your own health and a health advocate for yourself. I wanted to talk about grains and sugars, also leading to this obesity epidemic that we now have today.
You got charges. It's almost it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, 90% of the money that Americans spend on food is for processed food. That is just amazing. This is the crux of our diabetes and obesity epidemic. People are simply exchanging convenience and taste for health. Seriously. And it can be hard. I know there's a certain psychological and emotional factor tied to these types of foods. And there's been some crazy research papers that I've dug up and looked at where people in the big food industry pay food scientists to make fake food taste way better with addictive chemicals to make you keep coming back. And we don't even know it because we wouldn't think that our government would do such a thing to us. I'm pretty sure for those who are subscribed to this channel probably do know so. So I just want you to think that we need to spend more time in the kitchen to produce healthy food because it's practically unavailable anywhere outside of your home. Even at the health food stores, you have to be very careful and read labels. If you think about it, the large-scale processing of food is really only about 100 years old. But this processing is one of the primary reasons that we have an epidemic of chronic diseases today, especially with metabolic syndrome, type 2 diabetes, obesity, being overweight. I mean, the numbers are just staggering high for overweight and obesity. I mean, it's crazy. So listen to this statistic. Diabetes or pre-diabetes now affects 1 in 3 Americans. 1 in 3. That certainly qualifies for a modern epidemic. I thought my studio here was soundproof, but I guess not. Okay, so diabetes can cause early death, blindness. We read this in another video. Kidney failure, heart attacks, painful nerve damage called neuropathy. It's the most common reason people have to get their legs amputated, as a matter of fact. And this epidemic could be virtually eliminated overnight. Avoiding processed foods and exercising are two of the primary ways by which diabetes can be prevented and, in many cases, reversed. Another important technique is to limit grains until your insulin balance comes under control again. I can attest to this. So, I'm trying to think here. Here's a case study from a person that cut his blood sugar readings in half. This is Graham Kimshell from the UK, and he says, quote, "At the time I started reading about articles on diabetes and insulin resistance, my blood sugar reading was about 220 and 300. He cut out grains, dairy products, and the high carbohydrate suppliers like rice, pasta, and potatoes. He started using advice he found on the internet from lowering blood sugar, and then in less than a week his blood sugar dropped to 150 and is continuing to fall. That is crazy. Let's see what else. So the diabetic epidemic is clearly a major problem because it has such devastating consequences, but it is no mystery that we also have an obesity epidemic here in the United States as well. Not only do 1 in 3 people have diabetes or pre-diabetes, but in addition, 1 in 3 people are obese. Not simply overweight, but obese. And I can guarantee you, if you're obese, you are probably type 2 diabetic and just misdiagnosed, not diagnosed, but you're for sure pre-diabetic if you are obese. Almost any person that I've seen with a BMI of 30 or greater, it's a body mass index of 30 or greater, or people that are overweight, meet the criteria for being pre-diabetic. And they are certainly on a downward spiral to debilitating health and just, oh my goodness, detrimental health effects from here on out. I mean, it's one of the precursors and markers for Alzheimer's, dementia, cardiovascular disease, stroke, heart attack, coronary artery disease. It's just, the list piles up and up and up once you get pre-diabetic to that stage. It's like a cascading waterfall, the domino effect, the tip of the iceberg. Another 1 in 3 Americans are overweight, for a total of 2 out of 3 Americans. All are told who are above a healthy weight. Okay, so exercise is a critical element of weight control equation, but not because it burns the extra calories you're consuming, but it helps you increase your metabolic rate to burn more calories, but it helps you normalize the hormones insulin and leptin, both of which have a huge effect on weight control. So it's not about the calories or the total calories you eat. The calories in, calories out is just a complete farce. It's a complete fluke. But it's the ratio of proteins, fats, and carbs that you were genetically basically designed to eat that is the key factor here. And there's a lot of people who thrive on a ketogenic diet. You got to look at people being bio-individual, meaning what may work for me may not work for you, and vice versa. You have to keep that in mind. So, getting back to grains and sugars. Avoiding grains and sugars, something that was popularized by Dr. Atkins on his low-carbohydrate diet. We do have to understand that there are different types of carbohydrates, and the ones that compose the majority of carbohydrate intake are found mostly in high-fiber vegetables that grow above ground. These are the carbohydrates that our body would prefer, and they do not cause a significant increase in our insulin levels. We got to understand what insulin is. It's the fat-burning hormone, or the fat-building. Well, it's not necessarily a fat-burning hormone, as opposed to it being the fat-building hormone. You will not burn fat if you have insulin surging through your body. Fat burning, so that's what I'm trying to say. Fat burning shuts off the moment insulin enters into the bloodstream, into the body. So, if you think about it, insulin is a fat building hormone in the body. Therefore, increases in insulin cause weight gain. So think of the troublesome carbohydrates that you need to reduce or eliminate from your diet altogether. They're found in your grains, your breads, your pasta, your rices, your sugars, sugary foods, starchy vegetables like white potatoes, corn, which is actually carrots and beets. While carrots and beets are healthy for you, in moderation though. These carbohydrates will increase your insulin levels and tend to promote weight gain and illness. So yeah, we could definitely go on more about sugars, but I do believe that most of you here understand the dangers. Maybe not as much as grain, but definitely of sugar. We can get into more on grain in a later teaching. I'm used to saying teaching. In a later discussion, I should say. Trying to look through my notes here. Stuff I want to... Okay, here's another case study of Dominic Krupe from New York. His arthritis gone and he's mentally sharper. He's 54 years old. 20 years ago, he developed pain in his knees. The pain eventually spread to his back, neck, and hands. It was chronic. Doctors told him it was due to age and wear and tear. They concluded there was nothing he could do except to take pills and eventually get surgery. Since he's not overweight, not even he expected that a diet which consisted heavily of breads, cereals, cakes, and sweets had anything to do with his condition. So he thought because he wasn't seeing the effects on his body, that the foods weren't harming him. But that's the thing. Look at myself. I'm a slender man. I would say I can eat whatever I want and get away with it. While I may have had the metabolic efficiency to do so, I was still causing harm and damage on the inside of me that I could not see. And that's what we're talking about here. So, he understood how grains can have a negative impact on one's health, and he decided to gradually start removing grain-based foods from his diet. Alright, so there's a book called Wheat Belly. by Dr. William Davis. I mean, just incredible information. If you've never read it, I advise you to pick up a copy. It will never make you want to eat a grain or a bread or a cake. Again, you'll look at grains and breads with a whole different perspective when you read this book. There's a reason why we're addicted to these types of carbohydrates, such as breads and cakes and whatnot, and pastas. And that's what makes it really hard to break away from them. We don't understand why there's an addiction there. But when you notice the pain leaving you from eliminating that type of food, that in of itself is enough to cut it out of your diet completely. I used to take non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, Advil, Tylenol, all the time, because I used to have chronic pain, mainly in my joints and in headaches. And I used to blame it on this car wreck I was in. Well, it comes to find out, looking at my diet, I ate your traditional barley, rye, oat, wheat, all gluten-containing foods and grains. I was working out a lot and I was trying to gain weight. Well, because I was eating a high grain-fed diet, it worked. I was able to gain weight quickly. Not necessarily muscle mass, but just mass in general. Filling out a whole lot more. Bulkier, stockier looking. And the moment I eliminated grains and everything, headaches just disappeared. Pain went away, vanished. Just from the removal of all grain. Let's see. So again, most people are addicted to sugar, along with the grain addiction, the overconsumption of added sugars, such as high fructose corn syrup, fructose, glucose, dextrose, or sucrose. Anything ending in ose, O-S-E, is a sugar. It's one of the major health problems facing our nation today. Here is just a small inkling of what you can consider that sugar has been cited as contributing factors to: overweight and obesity, immune system suppression, inviting infection and disease, premature aging, cancer of the breast, ovaries, prostate, and rectum, decreased absorption of calcium and magnesium, two very important minerals. See, diabetes, fatigue, decreased energy and reduced ability to build muscle, heart disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, osteoporosis, yeast infection, depression, dental decay, and gum disease. And the list can go on and on and on. Sugars and simple carbohydrates are processed by your body in the same manner as grains. We can get more into the science, or we can get more into the articles involving sugars and grains, and I'll make sure I put those out as well. But I just wanted to put a couple of videos out here to watch, and if you like the content, please subscribe and share these, like them, leave your comments below. It helps me out. It gives me things to look into to help you out. That's why I'm doing this. So in the meantime, bless you, thank you, have a wonderful night.